Welcome to the Money Watch podcast. It is, what is it, Mark? It's Tuesday, June 13th. This is a huge week for the economy, just huge. We have the Consumer Price Index comes out today. Then we also today have the beginning of the two-day Fed meeting where we are going to conclude tomorrow. I think all indications are that they're going to pause, but I don't know. There was it had to be a discussion point about that jobs report that came in pretty strong. And then day after, retail sales. It's like everything can be wrapped up now. Mark, after this week, I'm thinking about that I don't have to pay attention to any economic data. Is that okay? All right, I'm not going to do that. Mark, I'm going to bring on our listener. Already we got an exciting subject line that broke through everybody. And the subject is Italy or bust. So joining us today is John, who is calling from a tax-friendly state. Hello, John. How are you? What can we do for you?
First, I'd like to say that my wife and I are big fans of your podcast, and we really think that you guys, all the advice that you give, everyone can really benefit from. So we appreciate it.
Oh, thanks a lot. I appreciate that. So what's going on for you guys? I want to know how we're getting to Italy.
Well, we've been working off of a homegrown retirement model. We continuously make revisions. We try to keep it updated. We believe we're on track to retire in about 8 years, but would really like to shave off as many years as possible, maybe in about 5 years. So that would be a mid 2028.
Okay. How old are you, John?
52.
You're so young. How old is your wife?
She is also 52. We're about 6 months apart.
And do you guys both work full time?
We do.
How much do you earn, John?
Our combined income is $375, right around there.
Okay, that's great. Awesome. And how are you saving for your early retirement? So I'm going to just say 5 years, because why not? Why not try to make your dream become a reality, especially if Italy is involved? How are you saving on that $375?
We max out our 401ks at work. Mm-hmm. So, and we also max out the catch up. So that's about $60 a year. And we also save, in addition to that, about $2,000 to $3,000 per month. I would say it's closer to $3,000 on average. Mm-hmm. And that just goes into a brokerage account.
Okay. That's awesome. So let's say like 90 grand a year is pretty amazing. So fantastic. Let's talk about the values of those accounts. So in your 401ks, how much is in there?
Combined, we're just over 2.2 million.
I'm liking this already. And what about in the brokerage?
In the brokerage, we have just over 200.
Okay. Do you guys have kids?
No kids.
Hence 57 looking more and more likely. In your tax-friendly state, do you own a home?
We do.
How much is it worth?
We're estimating right around $550.
And is there a mortgage that's still outstanding on it?
There is. We refied a few years ago. We did a 15-year mortgage at 2.0%, and our balance is about $250, and it'll be paid off in 2033. I
kind of went right past another question I should have asked. Do you have other accounts besides a 401k, an old IRA, a Roth IRA, anything else floating around, I-bonds, anything else?
We do. We each have IRAs, and I included that in the combined.
In the 401k?
Yes.
Okay. Rental property?
No rental property. And we also have an emergency fund of about $60,000, but we pretend like we don't have that.
Okay, that's good. So talk about Italy or bust. I want to know about this. What's the game plan? What's your hope and dream?
Well, it started moving there, and we very quickly learned that it is not a very tax-friendly state, and quickly pivoted to staying less than 183 days so we could avoid all that tax implications. So it would be very close to 6 months in Italy. Pre-retirement, we would try to manage the capital gains chart and pay zero capital gains, living on a budget of about $89,000 per year if we could.
Wait a second. I love you already. Living on a budget of about 89,000. Can I say 90? Pretty please. Let me say 90.
Well, no, because then that would bump us into the next tax bracket, the 15%.
Okay, but listen, here's your good news. 89,250 is this year. So let's say it's 90. You'll get a little inflation bump. Theoretically, when you make this move in 5 years, sell the house? We got to keep the house. You got to come back to something, right?
Well, you're right. And we would still have the mortgage, which would, our mortgage is about, I think it's 18 or 1900 a month. So we already met with a realtor here, and we believe that we could be house neutral, if you will. The plan would be to rent the house until it was paid off in 2033.
But then where would you're going to rent the house full time, or do you live in a place where you could get 6 months at a time?
We would rent it full time, and we would live on part of our lot that has has separate zoning.
Are you going to buy one of those houses that is like $37,000 and then like put it in, make a studio apartment for yourselves? Or are you living in a shed? I mean, really, what are you going to do?
We have a camper, so that would be maybe a month or two of the 6 month balance. But we have family all over the U.S. and in Europe, so we would try to stay with them as well and say our hellos, and then the other, maybe call it 60 days, be in our camper. That's the trade-off for retiring early and still having the mortgage in our opinion.
Mark, if John and his wife want to park their camper in front of your building, could they do that? I mean, I guess that would be a hard thing to do. So, okay. But you feel like you really could, I mean, if we say 90 grand, I'm just doing that for ease, you could live on that in today's dollars. You feel like comfortable that you could live on that?
It would definitely be a budget for us, but we feel like we could do it.
And you're willing to do it is really what you're saying.
And yes. And we plan on drawing from Social Security not until we're 70.
And do you have those amounts, that Social Security amount that is out there?
I do. We modeled it with no additional income because I didn't know how to figure that out on the site. So we just modeled it, no additional income. Mine was about 3,700 and my wife's was 35.
Just so I get a frame of reference, because we're having you live on $7,500 a month, but what do you actually really live on right now?
Right now, we probably spend 13.
That's a big haircut, dude. Are you really going to be able to do that?
I think we will.
So what we're really talking about is this, this period of 13 years, right? Because this is the kind of the going forward. So in your mind, for the 13 years from age 57 to 70, you are going to use your brokerage account. Is that your hope?
Our hope was to use the brokerage account from, say, 57 and a half until we get to the 59 and a half, 60. And then at that point, we can draw on our retirement accounts without penalty.
And not only that, you got a crap load of money in those. They're mostly pre-tax. You don't have Roths, right? This is all pre-tax.
We do not. It's all pre-tax.
Okay. This is important as a component of your planning. And here's why. What I think is, I think you need to do, in the next, say, 5 years is I want to bulk up that brokerage account a little bit, because you're going to spend that account down in those first couple of years, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. So I don't want to leave you with zero, but I will say that I like the idea of pulling money out of those 401k accounts and locking in your tax liability at what is likely to be a lower rate. I mean, I don't know. We'll see where tax rates are at the time, but let's base it on today's. Okay. So the first couple of years, you're at this 89,000. Pay some capital gains at 0%. You don't have to pay anything. It's great. So then we come into the period where you actually need to pull money out of these accounts, and you could pull, let's say, 100. Let's say that you pulled like 110, 120,000. Let's say you paid, let's say it was 10 grand a month, right? And you pull that 10 grand a month out at 59 and a half, and you're going to start using that to live on. So you're going to pull the money out. That will put you at paying your rates at 22%. Most of it will be at 12%, by the way. We pay the tax that's due at 12 to 22%. You live on the rest. And you do this for the next, essentially 8 years, right? Until maybe 9, maybe we'll see. You could do that for 10 years, I guess. So you'll do that until you're age 70, and you'll start pulling 120 grand a year out of this retirement account. You'll pace yourself. And then from there, I guess that what we will have to see is whether you're really on track. So, John, when you finish this work, when you said 7,500 a month or about 90 grand, did we include medical insurance?
We have that included in our budget as part of the monthly expense.
Okay. All right. I think your plan can work. I kind of dig it. All right. The one thing that could potentially derail it is if you're like, you know what? We're really not doing the 7,500. It's not working. It's not going to work because you do it for a year and you're like, just not enough money. It is possible. It could be that after your first year when you're like, life is great, I'm so happy. That could be the second year. You might be like, you know what? Kind of miss doing blank, 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 and blank. I think the only way the plan kind of blows up is if all of a sudden you're back at 10, 12 grand a month. Then you're going to pull too much money out of the retirement account. But I think this works. And by the way, I think that the idea of locking in the tax liability on $2.2 million is kind of fantastic. It really is. Do you feel okay about diverting some of the money from the 401k pre-tax into post-tax brokerage, even though, it kind of sucks? I know that you're going to be like, oh, I don't want to pay the taxes. But do you see what the point of having that little extra liquidity for the first few years of the adventure?
I do. And our plan was to, as you mentioned, reduce our 401k deposits only up to the match, a company match of 5%. And then everything else we would funnel into our brokerage account from those years. So we know we're
great. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is that you asked in your email about halting the 401k and using a brokerage account. It is truly to make sure you have the liquidity so that you don't have to invade your account prior to 59 and a half. And also, just to be clear, when I talk about safe withdrawal rate, there are many people who have been in my business, and I'm a former investment advisor, a former practicing certified financial planner, who really are comfortable using a 4% withdrawal rate. I am not. I am a wimp. And I think that given what you'd like to do, I would rather be more conservative and use a safe withdrawal rate of about 3%. And don't forget, that money in the 401k has not been taxed. So you're going to have to pull money out, pay tax on the amount you pull out, and then spend. If we're wrong, you end up with more money on the other side of the adventure. Okay. If we're right, and we think that you're going to have some bad years, you don't have to sweat it. That's why I use a more conservative approach. In this situation, you can make different decisions. Now, let me ask you another dumb question. Let's say you do it for a year or two and you're like, you know what? Great, we're done. Do you have the idea that you would come back to the US and maybe work again or do something different, have another endeavor? What do you see going forward? Like if you don't want to live half the year abroad?
We would probably just do something else. I don't know whether we would want to get back into the full-time work environment. We've been talking about this for a long time, and I really don't think that we would be upset with our decision. We're a little concerned on the budget, and that's why our model really told us to retire in 8 years, not 5. But I think that we've thought through it enough that the budget for the handful of years until we get to retirement age is worth the quote unquote sacrifice of retiring early and not having to both be working. Also, once we get into retirement age, we have it that our budget would increase to about $12,000 per month. So we're not.
So you're padding that. It's good.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I think it's great.
One other thing that I picked up on how you guys were offering advice, we have 2 versions of our model. One is at a 3% withdrawal, and then also a 4% withdrawal, just to kind of see the bookmarks.
And look, 4% can work. It really can, but you have to catch it and be lucky. For many people, they think that if you could just be a very smart investment person, you will then outrun these numbers. But what we have learned over time is that pretty much everything regresses to the mean. And, if you have used your time wisely and saved, that's the much more important variable than your investment return, because the investment return's kind of going to be what it is. Not that many people outperform, not that many professionals outperform. So in my mind, like, whoa, well, if I want to go to Italy, I don't want to be like managing money full time, and I don't want to be worried about it. So I like using the 3 as just, again, a guardrail. And look, maybe if you decide you're age 57 and you're in the middle of a horrendous bear market and you say, yeah, I'm going to wait 2 more years. That's fine too. But you've got a plan, I think, that can withstand lots of different market conditions. It also sounds like you're flexible and you're willing to make different choices. That's the key. If you've got a plan A, B, and C and those scenarios are operating at once, then you're golden. It's just the people who are hell-bent and saying, I got to retire at 57. I'm never going to work again. And I want to spend exactly what I'm going to spend right now. That's a tougher lift, isn't it?
It is. And one point of clarification, that our budget we said was fixed. We're using 2.5% inflation each year. So the budget would be fixed at 2.5% inflation, but our our annual interest would be one bookend at 3%, one at 4%. So that's what we would earn on our portfolio.
I like that. Mark is going to ask you a very important question.
Yeah, let's get to the fun stuff. I mean, come on. Jeez Louise.
Let's get to the fun stuff. Okay, Mark, let's go. We got it. Okay, Mark, now take over.
Why Italy? What's the connection to Italy and where?
The first time we were there, it was for a wedding, and we did some traveling after that. And we just absolutely fell in love with the place. We were down in Amalfi. We understand that was very expensive, and that's not where we're going to be retiring. But just we just fell in love with everything, the culture, the scenery, everything about it. We are certainly for the pre-retirement years, we would be down in probably Puglia, just because it's so much more budget friendly compared to the north.
Okay, I did that big gasp because I'm taking my first trip ever to Puglia in October. I'll be checking it out for you.
and we started taking Italian lessons online about 4 months ago.
Mark, do you want to give a little, let's go back and forth. Let's have a quick conversation in Italian. Both of you can show off right now.
No, I'm not in a position to show off right now.
Come sta? Come sta? Come on.
I know how to answer that. Bene, bene, va bene. Okay, see, I know enough in every language to be completely dangerous. All right, John, any other questions for us?
No other questions. Do you see anything else that I should add to my model or take into a consideration or anything?
A separate budget for wine and macaroni.
Oh, see that? I think it would be interesting for you to run this. By the way, who cares if you paid 15% capital gains? Okay. I would be interested to see it as 59 and a half, like you retired 59 and a half, not 57, then run it at 10 grand a month, not 7,500 a month, and see where you stand.
Okay. I will.
That's what I would look at. John, from a tax-friendly state, on his way to Italia. We wish you the best of luck. I want so much information in the future as you get nearer and nearer to this. I'm just fascinated. This is such a great story. So thank you so much for contacting us. Mark, you could execute this plan. This could be your plan. You, Amanda, Theo, John, his wife, you guys can all have like a little compound.
Yeah, well, John's going to have to keep our info on file because, my plan, not this year, not this summer, not next summer, but I think August of 2025, my language is going to be up to par by then. I really want to start spending the month of August over there.
All right. I'm all in. This is all good for me. All right, guys. It has been an awesome pleasure talking to John, and we are so happy that we get to have these conversations with all of you. If you want to join us on the air, go to JillOnMoney.com, click the Contact Us button. While you're there, sign up for the free weekly newsletter. Buy my book, The Great Money Reset. Talk about a reset. John and his wife are about to reset in a big way. And of course, subscribe to our new service. It's called Jill on Money Live, where you have access to quarterly live webinars and bonus content that lives behind the paywall. $35. Everyone says it's so cheap. I don't see y'all signing up. If 10,000 people sign up, then I'm going to know it's too cheap. Price is going up next year. You know that. Anyway, do send us a note, and we'd love to have you join us. Mark Talercio is the co-host and executive producer of this show. Karen Kranick is still our web queen, just days more. And we are distributed by Paramount Global. Lift someone up, change your work, change your wealth, change your life. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you on Thursday.